I'm excited to be here with you guys today. The NET meeting in particular, like who you guys are. You guys are the events team. You're out in the field. You're at the shows, the home and garden shows, the little flea markets, whatever, to help us sell more Cutco. And I really owe my career to the fairs and shows and events team. And I'm from San Diego, California, but I went up to college in Washington State, and I had no leads. And the way that I sparked my career of selling Cutco in school was by doing fairs and shows. And I remember the very first one. How many of you guys remember your first show you ever did, your first shift ever? So I'll paint the picture for my first shift. It was the Spokane, Washington Home and Garden Show. And I remember the first woman who walked by the booth. We had the tablecloth. We had like the super just ghetto banner in the back. I mean, it was not as beautiful as all the stuff that DP's got for you guys. So I had this booth. I had my knives laid out, and there's this like really old woman who just like walks by. She's like got a walker, and then she just looks. And you know how our signs say like forever guaranteed. And she looks at it. And she's like, "Oh, I don't buy things that will outlive me anymore." And my reaction was, totally get it. And she looked at me mortified and just like quickly shuffled away. That is my first experience at a fair and show booth. So it got better from there. But I'm here to share with you guys about an experience that I had for an entire year called the Mr. Thank You Project. Some of you guys have heard a little bit about it. Some of you guys have heard some stories or read about it. So I'm going to share with you guys some insights of really what the experience was like writing 5 thank you cards a day every single day for an entire year. And you don't have to know necessarily what happened to imagine that making a commitment like that or any type of big commitment in your life that's going to take that much time, you're going to change. You're going to grow. You're going to have experiences that you'll be transformed for the rest of your life, and I can definitely attest to you right now that that's the case. So as I share with you my story, I don't want you to hear about this and be like, wow, that's so great. This is John Israel. John Israel's such a great guy for this thing he did. I really want you to hear this from the perspective of like, how can I apply this? Where does my life fit inside of this mission? How might I be able to do something similar or something that I'm passionate about in my career with Cutco? Because as most of us, I hope, have found, the value of really the vector opportunity in selling Cutco knives is not to sell more knives, it's to build a life that you're really proud of. It's to do something significant and make a difference in other people's lives. So this all started in October of 2016. I'm a coaching client for Epic Impact. I know some of you guys are fans of Epic Impact. You gone to their events. I was at one of their events, and there is a story that was shared with me that absolutely shifted my perspective on how I viewed my business. And it was a story of the man who wanted to change the world. It goes like this. So there was a man who wanted to change the world, and he went out to try and do it. And in the process of doing that, he found out the world was too big for him to be able to change. So he decided to focus on his country. And he got into politics, and he did the best that he could, but he still found it was really difficult to make any type of real change in his country. So he went back to his city, and he got involved there, and he's like, well, I can change my city and the local, like, I'm here, this is my home, I can do that. But he still found that he couldn't make the change he was expecting. And then he thought about his family, and he's like, oh, but my family, that's who I see every day. You know, I can change my family. And as some of us have found, you can't really change your family, right? They are who they are. So it was on his later years that he realized that the only thing that he had in control was to be able to change himself. And by changing himself, he could change his family. And by changing his family, they could eventually change the city and the country and the world. And he really saw that the way that he could actually affect positive change in the world was by affecting himself. And, you know, while I do sell Cutco at events, I am predominantly a Cutco closing gift consultant. A majority of my sales are closing gifts. And so really my business is about gratitude. It's about, you know, I coined this phrase that I'm a gratitude salesman. And so I made this idea that like who I was for my business was elevating the level of gratitude on the planet. And it sounded really cool, but then it was really funny. I have this shirt that says, today is a great day to change the world. And I was wearing it in a Starbucks one day, and this guy comes up to me, and he says, oh, what do you do to change the world? And no one had ever asked me that. And I was like, oh, I sell gifts to people and like Cutco knives. And he was like, oh, I thought you actually did something to change the world. And that was super awkward, right? And he just kind of turned back to his coffee. And I was like, kind of like heartbroken. But he had a point. He had a point. What was I actually doing to be consistent with who I say I'm committed to being? Because if I say, like, I'm committed